Hello everybody, it's Alan Williams. I have a story slash confession I need to make, and then I'm going to acknowledge some very special lady friends of mine. My Vancouver homies, particularly the ladies, my lady friends in Vancouver, you may remember me. Back then I was a bit immature, not on purpose. I was what you call underdeveloped mentally. And there were days when I tried entirely too hard to prove to people, ladies especially, tried way too hard to prove that I was a nice guy and that I was worthy of being your friend. A lot of you must remember that. Well, in some cases I came off a bit creepy, and I didn't mean to, but there's a reason why I was the way I was. And after a great deal of thought and a ton of therapy, I ended up digging up a suppressed memory that explained my weirdness back then. When I was in 5th grade, my mother and we moved in with my Aunt Patty, and I got transferred to a new school called Melanese. It's in New Jersey. And, well, a couple of the boys there, about 4 of them actually, they were trying to be show-offs to me because I was the new guy in school. I was about 11, 12 years old. And, these guys one guy in particular told me, he says, hey, you can get away with anything you want in this school. Absolutely anything, and you never get in trouble. Now I thought he was just being silly, but then during recess, these guys started getting really rough with the other girls in the school. One guy in particular, he comes up behind a girl, grabs her like this from behind with one arm. He starts shoving his other hand down the front of her pants, and she's struggling and fighting to get away. And the boy, when he was doing this, he's looking right at me in my eye, and he's going, see, look what I'm doing. And he's being real goofy about it. And I've only told this story to one other, and the question I got was, well, Alan, what did you do about this when you saw this happening? Well, the truth of the matter is, I was in the 5th grade, I was a kid, and the truth of the matter is I was just plain scared, and I didn't do anything. I was too scared to do anything, and I walked away. After that, the teachers got many complaints from parents and whatnot, and the boys and the girls were separated. They weren't allowed to play together again unless under adult supervision and during gym class or PE class. Now, that damaged me quite a bit when I was a kid. So much so that I've been trying to redeem myself mentally without realizing it. And I started to, that's when I started trying really hard to be every woman's savior ever since. And that's the mindset that I was in when I met many of the people I know in Vancouver, Washington, Clark College. Now, unfortunately, some of the lady friends I made are not my friends anymore because they just didn't get it. They couldn't understand why this guy in his early 30s was trying way too hard to be their friend, to be their protector, to be their savior, to keep them safe. And it was because I was, I guess you could say, psychologically damaged from this terrible memory that I just couldn't get over. And that's why I tried so hard to be the nice guy. I tried way, way, way too hard. And all I did was develop this reputation for being a bit of a creepy guy. Now that's a hard memory to live with. But the fact that I can speak openly about it now without breaking down into tears, it makes me feel like I'm finally getting that terrible memory out of my head, and I'm getting my head wired on straight. Now, there were a select few group of ladies who looked past my weirdness and they saw the good person underneath. And these ladies are very dear to me because they're my friends even now. First one I want to talk about is Lafonda Clement. She was the very first friend I ever made at Clark College, and probably one of my best friends. She clearly looked past that. In fact, she never bit her tongue about it. If she saw that I was talking and saying ridiculously immature things, she made it pretty clear that I shouldn't talk that way or behave that way. And she's still a good friend. She made me feel like I was learning something. She was kind of like she took on like a big sister kind of role. And I feel that over the years of friendship I've had with her, I've grown wiser and more mature. And Lafonda, if you're watching this, I appreciate that you were such a good friend to me back then, and that you're still my friend now. I had a similar experience with a really adorable Asian girl named of Sachi Littler. That was one of my favorite memories, getting to know her, and that's because I was a bit too open, talking about anything and everything, just blurting it out like it was casual conversation. And some of the stuff I talked about was totally inappropriate, like smut. I got involved in a writing contest and I won a few, and one of them was exotic stories, erotic, exotic, whatever the hell. And I could see the discomfort in Sachi's eyes. So one day I kept getting these looks like, uh-oh, here comes Alan the weirdo, those kind of looks. So finally I couldn't take it anymore and I said, Sachi, have I done something wrong? Because you don't seem to be comfortable around me anymore. And in a very, very, very gentle way, Sachi, she didn't bite my head off, she nibbled it. She nibbled my head off. In other words, she set me straight. She came out point blank in the most sweetest sounding voice you ever want to hear. And she was like, Alan, you're way too open. You're always talking about smut, and the things you're saying are very uncomfortable and sometimes disturbing. And she laid it all out for me and told me straight that I had to, grow up. You're older than us. You should have a more level head than this. And she was right. So ever since that talk, I started really wising up and paying attention. There were some other students that didn't. They were cool. They were totally cool with the wacky talk I was making, conversations that I would make with them. And if Sachi was around and these other students would bring up stuff that they knew I liked to talk about, I would clam up and I'll go, sorry, I can't discuss this. And I would say, Sachi has schooled me. She schooled me. And I cannot speak on these matters any longer. Yes. Once Sachi saw that I was making a genuine effort to mature myself better. She saw the good person that I apparently am, and she's been my friend ever since. One of my favorite friends, I have to admit. So thank you, Sasha. Sachi, excuse me. Forgot your name. Thank you for doing that for me. Now, Sachi has one of her dearest and most best friends, like a sister. This young lady's name is Anna Hanover. And Anna, my guess is you probably would never even started talking to me at all if Sachi hadn't straightened me out. And once she did, you could see that I was very harmless, naive, but harmless. And the next thing I know, we became friends. I was very appreciative of that because you also saw that I was trying pretty hard not to make people uncomfortable, especially ladies. And you saw the goodness in me, and your friendship helped me to wise up and grow up. And thank you, Anna. I'll always appreciate you for that. Another friend I made was her name is Sarah Louise Gill, one of the brightest minds I've ever met. She helped me to maintain my faith. And when I talk about faith, I'm talking about my belief in God. When you become a born-again Christian, there are times when even a good Christian can stray. And I was in the process of straying when Sarah came along. And this young lady helped put me back on track with my faith. And she was always point blank with me, just like Sachi. Very point blank, She made it very clear to me my good qualities, my bad qualities. I recall one time we had a conversation, and this is, Sarah, I love you to death for this. You could always read me like a book. Like, there were times when you would try to make a joke with me, and I took it seriously. And if I was always worried that I was offending you. But one day you picked up on the fact that, well, I actually got the joke, and I was not being uptight. And you said, "This is good, Alan." You said, "You're actually, back in the day, you would have been worried that I was worried." And I was like, man, she sees right through me like glass. And your friendship also helped me to grow up and stop trying so hard and, just be myself. You helped me to learn how to be myself. And I'll always appreciate you for that. Thank you. Now there's one young lady, I have to admit, one of the most intriguing individuals I have ever met. Her name is Hebecca Montoril. And I gotta tell you, this young lady is very wise beyond her years. When I met her, she was 17, but she's by far one of the most intellectually stimulating people I have ever met. It is impossible to have a conversation with Hebecca without having learned something. I always feel just a little bit more educated with every conversation we've ever had. And lately, Hebecca gives me tips on how to maintain a good health, physical health. She's kind of my health guru, if you will. Real good tips and advice on the right foods to eat, exercise, dieting, all that sort of thing. And thank you, Hebecca. I appreciate your help and you helped me grow up too. I don't know if that was your intention, but that's just the kind of nature you have. You just, you're good at helping people, whether you mean to or not. So thank you, and I appreciate that. Now, out of all the ladies on this particular video, there's one in particular named Elisabeth Perry. Now, this woman she has one of the most forgiving souls. Very forgiving. Now, unfortunately, I was on a bad drinking binge, and I ended up saying some really, really terrible and mean things to her and her boyfriend Travis. Really harsh, mean things. I was way out of character because I relapsed on booze and I was all messed up, and you know, it was just really pathetic and stupid for me to be that way. But somehow, some way, Elisabeth was able to look past my stupidity and my issues, and she saw the good person underneath. And she was always willing to point that out to me, my good qualities. Talking with her made it easy for me not to focus on anything negative about my life, about me. And another young lady who was way ahead of her years mentally, and maturely. All these ladies on this list were, and probably still are, a lot more mature than I am. Certainly more mature than I was back then. And Elisabeth, you're engaged now. You got a baby coming. You got a real good man who's taking good care of you. And Travis, I owe you and Elisabeth an apology, even though I probably apologized 10 times already. But you're a good man, and I appreciate that you're as forgiving as Elisabeth is. Last but not least, on this particular video, is a wonderful young lady named Mary Tindall. Tindall or Tindall? Mary. I always found you to be quite interesting, because like the other ladies on this list, you're ahead in years mentally. It was always interesting talking to you. You were not like the other students that I got to know in Clark College. Many of the other students, they were always more interested in the next drink, the next smoky, the next party that they could go hang out and just do mindless bullshit. Now Mary, on the other hand, she was a striver, and she still is. She was always focused on making her life better, and I found that to be quite inspirational. I recall one day in particular, a teacher from Clark College put together this poetry reading, and Mary was there, and I felt so encouraged and grateful by just her presence that I manned up. I got brave, and I was the first one to read that night. I read a poem on the back of a t-shirt. It was called Crocosaurus. Now, I don't remember that poem by memory. I wish I still had the shirt. But Mary, that's the kind of friendship, that's the kind of friendship you gave to me. Your passion for life in general inspired me to, quote, grow up. And what blows my mind about every lady on this list is that each one of them has helped teach an old dog like me new tricks. They're all younger than me, and yet they were all gracious and much wiser and much more mature, okay, much more thoughtful and forgiving, understanding. It's interesting that a guy my age can learn so much from these ladies who were practically half my age, and in one case literally half my age. And this video is just for me to say thank you for teaching an old guy like me to basically just grow up, be a man, and not be such a whiny crybaby punk. You're all amazing people, all of you, and I appreciate that you've allowed me to be a part of your life in some form or another. I'm grateful to all of you. And on that note, I'm going to end this video with a simple thank you. And I hope we all get to hang out again someday. I know you're all out there busy and doing your thing, living your lives. Thank you. Thank you all very much. To my Vancouver homegirls, I pray that you're all doing well, and I hope you all have a good evening. Good night. Bye-bye.